Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Too Many Guys Soccer Show Other League Short. It's me, Chelsea Mike, and if you bleed the blue like I do, you'll probably be looking for something else to watch in the upcoming months. But don't worry, I'm here to help guide you. We're going to review the fifth round of the FA Cup, which occurred this week, and we will preview the final of the Conti Cup, the Women's League Cup, which will take place this Sunday, March 5th. And finally, since I did promise last time, we'll take a brief peek at what's going on in some of the lower leagues. So let's jump right in and start with the trophy that's on offer this Sunday at Selhurst Park. So some familiar foes are going to fight it out for the Conti Cup as we have the Chelsea women taking on the ladies of Arsenal. And we really don't have to go back that far in time for an indication of what we might have in store. Chelsea and Arsenal faced off in round 5 of the FA Cup just last weekend, with Chelsea moving on 2-0 behind goals from Sophie Ingle and, of course, Sam Kerr, who has 8 goals in her last 3 cup matches. But, of course, Alexia Putellas' half year where she missed the Euros and didn't win the Champions League was good enough for Player of the Year. If you want to hear me go off on that topic, check out the latest full episode of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. And, of course, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you do that, you'll not just hear me making a fool out of myself, but you'll hear some pretty great guys giving you some of the smartest analysis in all of world football. Sorry, I digressed, but on Sunday, there is still hope for Arsenal. They did draw with Chelsea in their first match after the winter break at a packed Emirates Stadium. That was back in January. And Chelsea did falter in the Conti Cup last year against City. Still, Arsenal haven't looked the same since losing Beth Mead and Vivian Miedema near the end of 2022. And Sam Kerr is really finding her scoring form. And Lauren James for Chelsea is emerging as a potential world superstar, landing the player of the competition for England in the Arnold Clark Cup in the recent international break. And I just think Chelsea have more depth here. I think in this match, Chelsea are going to successfully notch the first piece of their potential treble. We shall see. I believe it's only streaming online, so you'll have to find it at the FA website. Turning to the men's FA Cup, the midweek fixtures, things got a little Spursy up at Bramall Lane, where Sheffield United of the Championship were home to 4th place in the Premier League, Tottenham. Of course, because this competition involves a trophy, you knew it was only a matter of time before Spurs would exit. But hey, if you're going to lose, why not provide us all a little bit of FA Cup magic along the way? I mean, this game wasn't really that magic, though. I'm pretty sure the highlights of this one, if you find them online, are only going to involve dribbling and passing until the 79th minute, when absolutely no one felt the need to play any defense, while Iliman and Dye dribbled around the box for like 2 or 3 minutes before placing home the winner. It's a good win for the Blades, who seem destined to return to the Premier League. They're 7 points above the playoffs in second, and they've got a match in hand. But it's got to be disappointing for a Tottenham team, but it isn't. I watched a Tottenham fan explain to me why top 4 was more important than staying in the FA Cup. Go on, Tottenham. Keep coping. Keep coping. Speaking of FA Cup magic, we had League 2 Grimsby Town taking on Southampton down on the south coast. And while Southampton were plenty capable of beating Chelsea 2 weeks ago, they couldn't beat a team 68 places below them in the table. We'd call it FA Cup magic, but really it was not. We're going to call this one VAR magic. Southampton had their opening goal ruled out for offside by VAR after it wasn't called on the field. Then Grimsby Town opened up a 2-0 lead on some very questionable penalties that VAR gave. Though in fairness, they were well taken and placed home. Southampton scored one goal that nobody could roll out. Then it appeared to get an equalizer on a James Ward-Prowse free kick that VAR ruled offside. Southampton had chances that weren't taken, but let's reflect on this a little bit. If this game had been played at Blundell Park on the east coast of England, rather than in St. Mary's on the south coast of England, then Southampton would have won the game 3-0, because VAR wouldn't have been in play. It's a bit stupid that in this day and age, we can't get 10 cameras to 8 stadiums to have VAR everywhere, considering I have no fewer than 4 cameras in this room right now. But with how involved VAR was in the outcome of this match, I'd probably feel pretty hard done if I was a Saints fan. But that's the magic of VAR. Elsewhere in FA Cup magic, Blackburn Rovers, who I will remind you, have won precisely the same amount of Premier League titles as have Liverpool, but who presently play in the Championship, upset Leicester in what could realistically be Jamie Vardy's last FA Cup start. Keep this matchup in mind as we could see both of these teams in either the Premier League next year or the Championship. Blackburn right now is nestled in a playoff position, and Leicester are not quite out of the relegation picture. So additionally, our favored winners in the FA Cup included City and United, Fulham, Burnley over League One Fleetwood, and Brighton over Stoke of the Championship. So we've already had the draw for the quarterfinals, and you know what? As your lower league correspondent, I'm pretty stoked. 2 of the top 4 teams in the Championship are going to face off in the quarterfinals back at Bramall Lane when Sheffield United take on Blackburn. This means that we will have a lower league side in the semifinals for the first time since Reading managed to make it there in 2015. Hope springs eternal for that lower league winner of the FA Cup. But don't sleep on Burnley. Burnley are going to the Etihad, but for City, that match is going to be nestled between a huge Champions League second leg against Leipzig and then the international break. I'll speak a little bit more to Burnley in a second. Our Cinderella team, Grimsby, goes away to Brighton, and they brought their own personal VAR to the South Coast last round, so let's see if they could do it again this time. Finally, your only all-Premier League matchup in the quarterfinals is Man U Fulham at Old Trafford. Watch this as United have the same fixture congestion as City, but they're only in the Europa League, which of course we have respect for on this show because we talk about lower leagues. Anyway, going back to Burnley, and just to briefly touch on some teams and some other teams for whom their fate already seems sealed in the lower leagues. For Burnley, it's countdown time until they clinch promotion. Burnley are 19 points clear of the playoffs with 12 matches left, but to put it in perspective, it's roughly the same amount of matches left in the Premier League, and it's the difference between Liverpool and relegation. And listen, kids, I bust on Liverpool because I hate them, but they're not getting relegated. And Burnley is dominating the Championship. They've scored the most goals, they've allowed the fewest, and they have the highest goal differential. They're having quite the year, and that's why a rotating City squad might have a problem against them in the next round of the FA Cup. Wouldn't it be something if City went out of the Champions League and the FA Cup in the same week? Could happen. We'll see. I don't really like Leipzig in that, but we'll see. Meanwhile, no team looks like a more surefire relegation candidate than those fighting vegans of Forest Green. Their rocket ship from the Conference of the Stars seems to have sputtered out. They're at the bottom of the League One table. They're 6 points behind the nearest side, and they're 8 from safety. And with 0 wins in their last 14 matches. You almost feel like they should be buried worse than they are now with stats like that, but they're going to need to begin to turn it around quickly, and they're up against fellow relegation side Accrington Stanley this week. They're going to need to win and start taking a lot more points from games like this if they're going to have a chance to remain in League One. In League Two, Leyton Orient is approaching, we'll call it the infallible zone, but I'm not ready to call it yet for them just yet. They're 13 points clear of the playoffs and are undefeated in their last 6, drawing last weekend with the aforementioned Grimsby Town, who, as I've mentioned, by proxy have beaten Chelsea this year. Grimsby Town, I'll remind you, are in 16th in League Two and are not going anywhere. Leyton Orient will take on the 10th place Swindon Town this weekend. At the bottom of the table, again, I'm not ready to call it yet. I'm not sending Rochdale out, but they are 6 points from safety, and they haven't won in 9. And their next 2 matches are against second place Stevenage and, of course, Grimsby Town. Enjoy this, Grimsby Town. This is the most you're ever going to get mentioned on this show. You got to milk this up. You beat Southampton, and we're throwing respect on your name. Because, you know what, even if I'm casually reminding you that without VAR, you certainly wouldn't have won, you still accomplished that. Anyway, it's bad times for Rochdale. I'm close to calling it. But in League Two, it just takes getting hot at the right time. You can ask Gillingham, who are in a very similar position right now at the beginning of the calendar year. So, still hope for Rochdale. Okay, y'all. That's all I got this week. Our cups are coming to a head, and we're racing to the last quarter of the season in our other leagues. So I'll keep watching this stuff so you don't have to. I'm certainly not going to be watching Chelsea. But for the Too Many Guys soccer show, I guess I'll still cop to being Chelsea Mike. And we did all right this week. We'll try to do better next time.